The Democratic Republic of Congo is a country in the central part of the African continent. Conflict has been raging in the eastern part of the Congo for nearly 30 years, killing more than 6 million people. With over 6 million casualties, the conflict in DR Congo is the deadliest in the world. Based on the belief that all lives are equal in value, it is surprising that this conflict does not receive more media coverage. Yet, for some reason, the conflicts taking place in eastern Congo receive very little media coverage compared to those taking place in other countries. In fact, the Congo conflict is sometimes referred to as the silent war or the forgotten conflict. Why, despite being the deadliest in the world, does the Congo conflict go underreported? In this video, I will explain in detail why, based on my actual coverage in Congo. Hello everyone, my name is Kanta. In the first part of the video that I posted recently, I provided a brief overview of DR Congo's history and the ongoing conflict. This video is the second part. Building on the content from my on-site reporting in DR Congo, I will explore 3 reasons why the conflict in DR Congo remains unreported. Please watch until the end. The first reason why the conflict in DR Congo is underreported is the lack of easily understandable photos and videos. For example, photos of refugees displaced by war and crossing borders in large numbers have a strong impact. In the war in Ukraine that began in March 2022, especially right after Russia's military invasion started, many photos of Ukrainians fleeing were widely reported. Furthermore, photos of refugee camps with makeshift tents built by aid agencies also clearly convey the urgency of the situation. On the other hand, in the conflict in DR Congo, most of the displaced people remain within the country, living as internally displaced persons without crossing borders. Moreover, due to the overwhelming number of internally displaced persons, building camps for them is not feasible. Most end up living in the homes of relatives or in ordinary houses in nearby villages. As a result, it is difficult to convey the severity of the humanitarian crisis in DR Congo. The conflict in eastern DR Congo is often referred to as a low-intensity conflict. To explain simply, although it is a conflict, intense fighting does not occur daily. Instead, there are occasional attacks by armed groups. Such conflicts, where the intensity of warfare is relatively low, are known as low-intensity conflicts. Unlike large-scale military clashes, low-intensity conflicts result in fewer easily understandable photos and videos. This is another reason why the conflict in DR Congo is less frequently reported. In September 2023, I visited the area myself. Just looking at the surface scenery, you wouldn't realize that eastern DR Congo is a conflict zone. The atmosphere was so peaceful that I found myself wondering if there really were armed groups present. However, despite its appearance being similar to other African villages, the reality is quite different. Please watch the footage I captured right after arriving in Kalonge, through the tropical rainforests of northeastern DR Congo. Finally, we entered the Kalonge area, our destination. It was a long journey. This is the view we saw after passing through the rainforest of the national park. It is a very nice view with lush greenery. It seems to be at a high altitude. The temperature is comfortable and very pleasant. And since we are surrounded by such rich forests, I feel the air is very clean. I was tired from the long trip, but it refreshes me. It seems peaceful around here, but are there still armed groups?
Yes, the armed group Raya Mutomboki is active in this area as well. We need to be careful.
Just looking at this view, the temperature is so cool and comfortable that it seems like a nice summer retreat. What kind of place are they hiding in?
Basically, armed groups like theirs do not come out much during the day. However, at night, they sometimes attack along main roads and loot money and goods from people passing through there, so it is hard to tell during the day.
This area where we are now is also rich in mineral resources, right?
That's right. It is very green and very rich in underground resources. The area is known for its tantalum, tin, and gold. These minerals are used, for example, in the manufacture of electronic devices such as smartphones and laptops. There are mining sites here and there, but they are occupied by armed groups at the same time. Local youths are engaged in mining at the mining sites, but the armed groups take about half of the production. This becomes a source of funding for the armed groups, and their armed struggle continues. It is ironic that natural resources such as gold and tantalum, which the world covets, are abundant, but they are the reason for the continuing conflicts. As long as there are no wars or conflicts, this is a very natural and peaceful place. We have such beautiful forests and rich soil that we can grow anything we want for food. It is such a place blessed with a natural environment.
When I hear stories about armed groups, of course I have to be careful about my safety. But I had only had a frightening image of Kalonge, so I feel glad that I actually came and visited this peaceful and natural place.
This place is really beautiful. That is why I hope the war will end soon and the place will be safe. It is a place so rich in nature that it is even self-sufficient in nature.
I have always been interested in the issue of mineral resources in the Congo, and it is very moving to think that I am actually here now, in the very place where this problem is occurring. I will do my best to cover the story in Kalonge, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. Compared to the war in Ukraine that began in March 2022, the situation is quite different. In Ukraine, modern buildings such as office towers and apartment complexes were destroyed by missiles. These clear images of war make it easier for the media to cover the conflict. On the other hand, DR Congo is one of the poorest countries in the world. Even when people living at the lowest levels of poverty are displaced, it is difficult for those in other countries to perceive any significant change in their living conditions. From the perspective of the media, the conflict in DR Congo may be challenging to cover because it lacks impactful images and is difficult for viewers to understand. This makes it less appealing for media coverage. The second reason why the conflict in DR Congo is underreported is that the state of emergency has become chronic. The phrase, "a state of emergency has become chronic," may sound odd, but in reality, DR Congo has been in a continuous state of turmoil for several decades. Shortly after gaining independence, DR Congo experienced a civil war known as the Congo Crisis. During the subsequent dictatorship of President Mobutu, many citizens died of starvation. Since the 1990s, the country has gone through two major conflicts, and even after peace agreements were signed, chaos has persisted, particularly in eastern DR Congo. Because this state of chaos has become chronic, the international community has experienced Congo fatigue, leading to an attitude of near resignation towards the country. This sense of giving up is also cited as a reason why the conflict in DR Congo is rarely reported. However, when a state of emergency becomes chronic, the local population continues to lose their lives slowly and surely. As I mentioned, over 6 million people have died in the conflict in DR Congo. However, more than 90% of these deaths were not due to direct combat. Instead, they were caused by indirect factors, such as limited access to food and medicine due to the prolonged conflict. These deaths resulted from preventable or treatable diseases. In other words, most of the people dying in DR Congo are passing away quietly without any attention, in places that aid organizations and journalists cannot access. We have looked into two reasons why the conflict in DR Congo is underreported: the lack of easily understandable photos and videos, and the chronic nature of the emergency situation. However, it is the third reason that truly underscores why DR Congo is often referred to as the microcosm of the world's darkness. The third reason why the conflict in DR Congo is underreported is that there are people who profit from the conflict. In other words, it is because there are people who would be troubled if the conflict were reported. The conflict in eastern DR Congo involves a multitude of stakeholders. These include government officials, the national army, police forces, foreign troops, arms dealers, multinational corporations, as well as media outlets, international organizations, and even religious groups. Some of these stakeholders are directly or indirectly involved in the illegal extraction of natural resources in eastern DR Congo, profiting from the war economy. In reality, the conflict in DR Congo is extremely complex, involving numerous stakeholders. Some researchers criticize that, despite this complexity, the conflict is often intentionally oversimplified, or key issues are diverted, creating an image of a savage African conflict in people's minds. The existence of people who profit from the conflict in DR Congo is also a reason why it has remained unreported until now. Incidentally, in Japan, where I live, there is very little coverage of the conflict in DR Congo. International news makes up only about 10% of the total news coverage in Japan, so the conflict in DR Congo is almost never reported. However, like many other countries, Japan is not entirely unrelated to the DR Congo. Minerals extracted in the DR Congo are used in everyday items like smartphones and computers in Japan. This topic was well received on our Japanese channel, so I've re-edited this video to share it internationally. Major media outlets also need to pursue profit. As a result, there are fewer media organizations willing to cover regions with low public interest, such as DR Congo, because it does not directly translate to high ratings or page views. This background is also a major factor in why the conflict in DR Congo goes unreported. I have also conducted field reporting in Eastern Congo, and from a financial perspective alone, it is a deficit. Despite this, I was able to travel to Eastern DR Congo and conduct on-site reporting, even if it was not profitable, thanks to the support of all of you through platforms like YouTube. It is because of your support that I'm able to continue this kind of reporting. Thank you all so much for your continued encouragement. If you haven't seen all the videos in the DR Congo reporting series, please take the time to watch them. Kanta's channel explains various issues in the world that are difficult to learn about through other channels. The important thing is not to be interested in world events, but to stay interested. Please subscribe to my channel to keep your interest. Thank you again for watching to the end. See you again in the next video.